Throughout history, victory's been decided by what's going on down here on the surface of the Earth. Britain, for example, in the 19th century came to dominate the globe by controlling the world's oceans. But from the First World War onwards, warfare took to the skies, and now controlling the air is a key part of military strategy. And all that began with those brave pioneer aviators of the First World War.
In 1909, Louis Blériot set off on a flight that would make history. His aim was to win a prize of £1,000 for the first plane to cross the English Channel. It wasn't the most elegant of flights and ended in a rather rough landing. But he'd made it.
The plane he flew was a Blériot 11, like this one here. It's amazing it got that far. It looks so flimsy. Even more remarkably, this one still flies. Not exactly Top Gun. When the war started 5 years later, planes like this were still in production, and a few visionaries thought these might have a military application. With that, the first major air war had begun. At first, planes like this were reconnaissance vehicles. They were having a look at what was going on behind enemy lines and reporting back. But gradually they started actually taking an active role on the battlefield. Pilots were issued with these nasty-looking things, flechettes, spikes that if you drop out the side might hit enemy troops, or even bombs.
Planes were now an important weapon of war.
You gotta be kidding. There's no way I'd go up in this thing. This might have been the future, but it's pretty primitive. In fact, I feel like I'm sitting in a wicker garden chair surrounded by a sea of canvas. To steer it, you just move this column, and it's connected by a very flimsy-looking set of wires to the wings themselves, not little flappy bits like modern aircraft. The whole wings move, they twist. It's a system called wing warping. The engine is underpowered and prone to overheating. It can only fly at 47 miles per hour. It can only go at about 3,000 feet, no more. And as for the instrument panel, you get one dial, your oil pressure. That's it. Ooh.
But as planes went into service in World War I, the pressure was on to improve the technology. Soon there was an arms race that pushed aircraft development at an astonishing rate.
The pace of innovation in those years was like nothing seen before or since. Just a few years into the war, there were planes like that. Is that cool? What makes this aircraft so distinctive are the three sets of wings. Now they're designed to give that aircraft the necessary lift, but make the wings narrower so the pilot can see more of what's going on the ground. It also made the plane very, very manoeuvrable. There's an old story that the first ever test pilot amazed onlookers by doing 3 consecutive loop-the-loops. That plane can fly 117 miles an hour. That's 2.5 times as fast as the Blériot, and it can fly 7 times higher. Such was the pace of innovation that some planes that were cutting edge could be obsolete just a few months later.
But innovation wasn't just changing how these planes flew, it was changing how they fought. It's said that at the very start of the war, when enemy planes passed each other, they'd give a friendly wave. That didn't last, and the age of air-to-air combat was born. At first, it was just the pilots taking pot shots with a pistol. but the next generation of aircraft would have guns as part of their design.
It soon became clear that the most effective way for the weapon to point was in the direction that the aircraft is travelling. Big problem there, though, of course, is you end up shooting your own propeller off, which is a bit of a disaster. The first solution they tried was to mount a machine gun on top of the wing, on top of the propeller. The trouble with that was that the pilot basically had to sort of stand up in his seat, release his strap, stand up here, and replace the magazine when it ran out of bullets. Completely unworkable, really. This SE5 had a system whereby the gun could slide back down to be reloaded and then slide up into its firing position. Still very cumbersome, though. The Germans soon came up with an even better solution, and it was quickly copied by the Brits. To show you how it works, I'm going to need to slow this down. They connected the machine gun to the crankshaft of the propeller with a series of cam plates, and that meant the machine gun only fired when these propeller's blades weren't in the way. It was a very precise bit of engineering. Get it wrong, you blow your own propeller off. The amazing thing about the First World War is that by the end of it, pretty much every significant part of aerial warfare was already in development. Planes were being used for reconnaissance, for communications, for dropping supplies, for dropping bombs, and for air-to-air combat.
In 1914, a new kind of hero was born. The fighter ace. These men took to the air in flimsy, primitive aircraft and fought to the death.
Today I'm going to find out what it's like to be in the middle of a World War I dogfight.
I'm flying with the Great War Display Team in a replica of the British BE-2. This is a reconnaissance aircraft, so I'm in the observer's seat at the front.
Here we are, labouring into the air. I think it's my heavy weight that's forcing the plane to work so hard. You really are exposed up here. You're right in amongst the elements. You know you're flying.
The BE-2 was famed for its stability in flight. Perfect as an observation platform, but hopeless at fighting. Planes like this would usually be accompanied by a more nimble fighter. My escort is this Sopwith triplane, manoeuvrable and well armed. But for a dogfight, we need an opponent. Our nemesis is a Fokker DR-1 triplane. It was Germany's answer to the Sopwith. They took the British design and improved on it. It spotted us and decided to go in for the kill. Air-to-air combat decides who lives and who dies.
Because aerial combat was in its infancy, no one had really written the rulebook on how to go about it. There's very little training.
A young German ace, Oswald Bolka, decided to change that. He wrote a list of what he believed were the key tactics of aerial combat. The Dicta Bolka. So here is Bolka's guide to winning a dogfight. Secure the upper hand before attacking.
Surprise is your most powerful weapon up here. That way, you determine exactly where and when you want the engagement to take place.
The Fokker is using the sun to mask its attack. It's also climbed up higher than the Sopwith. If you have the height, you have the stored energy which you can convert to speed. The Fokker attacks, hoping to take out the Sopwith with an ambush. He can see the plane, but he's not firing yet. He's following another of Bolka's dictums. Open fire only at close range.
Inexperienced pilots would waste their time firing an enemy they were never going to hit. That wastes your ammunition, that also gives away your
But the Sopwith got lucky and spotted the Fokker. Time for the next rule. If your opponent dives on you, fly to meet it.
If an enemy does pounce, don't run away, even though that'll be your first instinct. Turn to meet them. That's what the Sopwith is doing now.
Facing attack, your instinct might be to flee, but in fact, flying toward your attacker is the best strategy. By turning up, it makes it harder for the Fokker to hit it. The Sopwith survived, and now it's got the height advantage. The two sides are now manoeuvring, putting into practice another one of Bolka's rules. It's essential to assail your opponent from behind.
Very hard to hit an enemy who's moving across your course. But when you're behind them, you're much more likely to hit them.
The two pilots are now twisting and turning, desperately trying to get behind the other. It's a battle of nerves, wits, and engineering. Both pilots are pushing their planes to the limit. It's this that drove such rapid technological development. Just turning a little bit faster and tighter can be enough to secure victory. In this case, it's the Fokker that has the advantage. It has the Sopwith in its sights and fires. The Sopwith has been hit. Its thin canvas walls offer no protection for the pilot or fuel tanks. We're now on our own. With no escort, we're a sitting duck.
Unfortunately, he's on our tail now. Germans call this kind of warfare curved cap, turning war. Because you have to turn so sharply in order to shake the other guy off your tail.
But the stability of the BE-2 makes it hopeless against the Fokker. We've been hit.
And that's how you dogfight. You now know more than any of those early pilots that took to the air at the start of the First World War.
Even though I wasn't flying the plane, I still found that dogfight an exhausting experience.
And to do that, day in, day out, for much, much longer sorties, up to a couple of hours, with people shooting at you, it's hard to imagine.
Not surprisingly, the life expectancy of pilots was measured in weeks, not years. Those that made it safely to the ground were the lucky ones.
Just a few months after writing his rules, Bolka was killed during a dogfight. He collided with another German aircraft. He was just 25 years old.
Technology may have evolved beyond all recognition, but today, every fighter pilot still needs to know how to win an aerial dogfight.